Welcome to the Stacked Supplement Podcast, the premier source for supplement news and reviews.
We are back with another Stacked Supplement Podcast interview, and I have with me today Alex McCray from Man Sports, who I actually recorded a podcast last year with. I fucked it up, but we have him back again, and it's going to be just as good. Thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
The last time we talked, we had a shitload of things come in.
Yep.
I think that was around when you were rolling out the Rebrand. You had a lot of new versions of products coming out. Those have all come to market. The new look with the white branding has kind of dominated most of your lineup now.
Yep.
So I guess we should run over quickly. Just how did that go? How did it? Obviously well received by fans, but how was the rollout for you guys?
So it's been good. A lot of moving parts with this rebrand. I think we only have 2 products left. I think our coffee creamer, pump powder, and actually L-carnitine is kind of trickling away now. That's all that's left with yellow. Everything else has been completely rebranded. A lot of it's been reformulated and upgraded too, which we're super happy about. But obviously it's taken a very long time. Specifically protein is what we just launched, and that has been upgraded, 2-time stacked Protein Wars champions.
Yes. One of the 2 to claim it twice.
We actually upgraded that formula too and added hydrolyzed to it, so now it's hydrolyzed and isolate. So we're super pumped about that, and we're actually as of today, like, a few units left. Like, it's going to be sold out probably by the morning.
It always sold well though, didn't it?
Yeah, it was always a strong mover. And now that we came back with 3 flavors. We used to have like 8 flavors. And it was just too much. Obviously protein's expensive and it's also big. So it just ended up filling up our whole warehouse. But now we have, 75 SKUs. So we're kind of diversifying a little bit more, going harder into capsules. We're working on a couple exciting projects that I'll share with you. But we came back with kind of just our really strong, consistent sellers with chocolate milk, vanilla ice cream, and peanut butter bits. And then from there, we'll definitely be adding flavors and expanding on that. But we're in a tricky spot right now too. The rebrand has been awesome. People are loving the products. They're seeing that we put the extra effort in to improve them, whether that's mixability or flavor or the formula, rather than just putting a new label on it and saying it's shiny and new. But the trouble that we're having right now is kind of all of the after effects of 2020 when it comes to manufacturing delays, raw material shortage, even when it comes down to bottles. So we rebranded, and anything that's smaller than isoamino is white packaging with white bottles. Anything bigger than that, so our commodities, our EAs, and our protein is in a clear bottle. Well, clear bottles are impossible to come by now. So we just rolled out this rebrand, and we can't actually kind of stay within the parameters that we've designed. So luckily, we're able to be pretty flexible with the way that it looks and have a white bottle. Otherwise, we'd go completely out of stock until probably late September. And it's, mid-June right now. So we'd be totally screwed. But a lot of that has delayed the process. Even when it comes down to like capsule colors, those are going out of stock.
Yeah, someone's telling me about that.
Yep. So we're having to do, and which really sucks for us because that's a huge component of the rebrand, is each product has its unique color combination for the capsules. Like Brainbridge capsules are pink and white. Pro PF3 is red and white, and so on. So we're having to kind of deal with that, but we're letting customers know, like, this is authentic product. It's probably going to look a little different for the next couple months here, but it is authentic product. But bear with us because right now it's better than no product. So that's been one of the big challenges. And I'm hoping that this clears up kind of rolling into 2022, because right now protein has doubled in price, which we're not actually passing along to the customer because we kind of already have a premium price point on that. We don't want to gouge customers either. So we're sticking with the same pricing on that. We're eating all the costs, but even stuff down to creatine, you can't get your hands on it. Luckily, I think we were able to secure a couple thousand bottles of that, but it's getting tricky to be in the supplement game right now.
Yeah, I heard the protein price was going up, but yeah, someone told me it doubled, and I was just like, I'm glad that supplement brands can evolve and maneuver and do what they do best and make good use of what they have available, because double the price of protein, obviously it's not going to work out to be double on the consumer end, but like that shit's already expensive. It's one of the more expensive ones
for a lot of brands too. If you're doing a different pricing structure than us and you're really trying to be price competitive,
it's hard.
With some of the more mass items, it's going to be tough to make any money on it too. So I think that's going to have a lot of brands shy away from that kind of item too.
Most brands had kind of switched over like the last 5 years to the 4 pound, go from 4 to 5 to like just 2 pounds.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was weird, because I'm always a dude that buys like, look, you got a 10 pound, I'm buying a 10 pound.
Yeah.
And like, obviously the disadvantage there is like, well, you only get one flavor. And it's like, but I don't give a shit. But the trend now seems to be the 2 pound, and like you get brands selling them for 40, 50.
Yep.
But the 4 and 5 pound prices are still like, they're not that far away. But a lot of people still buy the 2 pounds. But
the good thing about 2 pounders for us is a lot of retailers like that, just because you're going to have people come back into the store more frequently, especially if a lot of products are designed around, 1 month using period, let's say. But yeah, back in the day, it was 5 or 10 pounders for me.
Yeah.
When I ran a large retail site, it was like all 5 pounders, almost no 2 pounders. Like we barely even stocked those. But
I remember.
I think retail kind of led the charge on 2 pounders. And I like it for like flavor flexibility, get a couple different options in there. But for, personal finances, 2 pounders is probably not the way to go for most people if there is a 5 or 10 pound option.
I feel like it's a US thing and maybe a Canadian, like North American thing, because I don't see that anywhere else outside of like, even like in Australia, New Zealand, you'll go to the retail store, it's just shelves of 4 or 5 pounds.
Yeah.
And like they'll still be doing
requested for all the time.
Yeah, and they'll still be doing the old school like concentrate above isolate or just straight concentrate. And like you look at the carbs and that shit, and you're like, oh my god. It's like a 5 pound, and you get something like 50 servings.
It's hard to do a 5 pound isolate, because I mean the price is going to be like $120.
Yeah.
If you want to make any kind of margin, especially if you're selling through distribution or retail too.
I think Dymatize probably does. Like back in the day, I remember Dymatize was sort of like, oh, it's an expensive protein, but it was like straight isolate, ISO 100.
Yeah.
Now it's very reasonable. It's something like $70, $80, I think. And
I think that's a good price. Kind of a mass move for them too, especially with the channels that they're in being FDM primarily, I think. But and also might have been a kind of a decision when they sold the Post and went a little more mass, in terms of their brand itself too. But yeah, I mean, they're still crushing it.
Oh yeah. But yeah, like I said, you guys brought out the Rebrand. The most recent one was the new protein.
Yep.
2-time protein was a winner. Like I said, the only other one to do it twice was NutriBio, and we've had like 4 other winners since. Yeah. But yeah, it was always a very popular product, and I think it was one of the big things about it was the flavors, the call outs, the creative angle around that. Are you eventually because you said you've launched with 3. Is that something you're getting back into on, like, because I know you do it a lot with the other products you do, so roll in limited flavors. Yeah. Is that kind of what we're going to see for the protein?
So I think for the protein, just for the sake of the relaunch, doing 3 was a lot easier. Completely, gutting all isoprotein yellow packaging and rolling it back out. It's a lot easier to do 3 different flavors rather than start with 4, 5, 6. So the plan is definitely add more as we go. but not recycle old flavors. Try to do new innovative flavors, but also not get too out there because, I'm sure a lot of brands that have kind of jumped on the unique flavor trend have experienced this as well, where certain flavors people might love, but you also have half of the people that absolutely hate it. So something like peanut butter, chocolate, vanilla is pretty safe bet. They know what they're getting into. Once you start getting into the kind of Fruit Loops like stuff, or like blueberry muffin or lemon cake, that's when you get people that love it or hate it. And we want to make sure that nearly everybody enjoys the product they're trying to get. So we're going to be very selective with what we do, but we want to definitely do some unique ones, whether that's kind of ice cream like flavors or cereal type flavors. So yeah, there's some cool stuff that we're working on. We're always creating new flavors, and that might be something that we create and we don't use for 2 years, but we have a massive list and we kind of pare that down over time. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the works for that. I think a new protein flavor might be like a Q4 thing for us. But in the meantime,
you said the shortage delays and shit.
Yeah, and that doesn't help. Trying to do a new flavor when we know we're going to have demand for the current ones. So I think that project's a little far off right now. But we also have plant protein coming.
Oh shit!
Next month. So Vegan Joy from Nutritox.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it'll be launching in 2 flavors.
That's a tough one. Like plant protein is. I'm glad that brands have come around to it, because for a while there they were just doing it because they were doing it, and they all tasted like shit. And I felt bad because, like, some people would be so excited, they'd be like, "Oh, I worked on this flavor for 6 months to a year, and I taste it." And I'm like, "Did you though?" Because this thing, like, it's kind of like, I remember I actually had this conversation with Steven, like fucking years and years and years ago, and he always said it was his problem. He says sometimes when you work on something for too long, you don't get to see the big picture, because he would say he would be working on his pre-workout and he'd get it perfect and he'd think it's the shit, but he'd been trying it for 6 months straight, so he wasn't sure. And I feel like that's what you get with some of these proteins.
Sometimes you work too hard on it and then you're too late to the game too. So with this
that's
protein,
another one.
It tastes really good. It is slightly grainy, like a lot of other vegan proteins out there, but we went with a pea source. We didn't go weird with it and start doing pumpkin and watermelon, and all that stuff is really cool, but we wanted to keep it pretty basic too. So, I think those other types of sources are a lot more niche, but we went with pea protein. It's pretty widely known, has a good amino acid profile, mixes pretty good. You can flavor it nicely. But then we have some unique benefits in there with vegan probiotics and greens blend too. And it's not, this super crazy, overcomplicated greens blend. That will actually be our greens product by itself. But this is a little addition that kind of enhances the protein, but doesn't impact the flavor at all. So you're not going to get that kind of greens hit, grassy aftertaste.
I feel like people that have plant proteins, it's kind of like protein bars. Like, I'll review a protein bar and I'll be like, this tastes so fucking good. But in my head, it tastes good because it's got 20 grams of protein. If I give it to my mom, which is, I do the mom test, she'd be like, no, dude, this tastes like shit. This tastes like a rubbery pile of ass. And like, I feel like vegan people who have the plant-based proteins, they have to, I feel like that they expect that graininess and grittiness. Like, even if it's like slightly there, they all have it to some extent. And I feel like that market must have to at least be expecting it by now. And so it's not really something you need to.
That's where we arrived at launching it this time, because a year ago, I think it had been a little too soon, where not enough people have tried plant-based protein, or the market just wasn't ready for it. But I think there's a lot of people that have come to realize that different protein sources aren't a bad thing, or a lot of people are starting to realize that whey or anything dairy-based upsets their stomach more than they thought. So I think even bodybuilders have come to the point where they're like, hey, maybe a different protein source isn't a bad thing. Especially if it's easier on your gut, it helps with digestion. And, even bodybuilders are kind of getting to the point too, where they're they're focused more on overall health and heart health, cardiovascular health, not just bodybuilding supplements. How do I get as big as possible? I think Revive MD is doing a really good job with that type of stuff too, which is cool. And that's kind of our main focus with Nutritox, not as much in kind of the commodities area or addressing a specific thing, but for us, like with Gut Joy and overall gut health, the vegan protein will be focused on digestion and rather than being kind of a bodybuilding type supplement. So we're getting a lot more niche with Nutritox and more on the health and wellness side. Everything natural flavors, no artificial flavors, no artificial colors or dyes. So trying to keep it very, very natural with the Nutritox stuff. But yeah, I think like we're at a place with plant protein where people understand what they're going to get now. It's going to be a little grainy, but it's a new source of protein. It's a protein source that's actually stayed relatively cheap, where it doesn't have the same fluctuations in cost of goods as whey. So we're actually going to be able to offer that at a really good price. And it's not a market that's, I guess, I know it's an overused term, but saturated yet with all these different brands doing it.
Not yet. I actually don't know if it's going to get saturated, to be honest, at least compared to like whey. Because I feel like there were a lot more coming out last year and maybe the year before than there are now. So I get the sense that like it's not necessarily stabilized, but come to the point where people are just going to gradually come in at the usual time that we're seeing. We've gone past that rush of like Redcon 1 coming in with Green Beret. Like the big brands, I guess, have kind of done their bit, and we might not see them.
Some brands might not think it really fits their product portfolio either. Redcon is.
It was a stretch for them.
Only one, but one of the only ones really pushing it kind of as like a sports nutrition product.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit different for them. They even did a different packaging and everything, and but it's a big mainstream brand now. So I guess they kind of felt they had to. But I mean, Optimum Nutrition, they jumped in ages ago as well. So it's kind of I think it's good. It'd be good to see your entry. I'm always rough when it comes to judging. Because I don't drink vegan protein powders like that often. When I taste it, because I did this with someone else, I had a podcast, and before we got on, I said, I'm drinking your plant protein now, and I threw it back, and I was like, I couldn't, my facials, like it wasn't bad, but like my facials kind of exaggerated it a bit. And he's like, oh, are you sure that's my one? And I'm like, I don't want to be rude, bro, but it is. It's no knock on yours. It's just because I'm more used to chocolate milkshakes than I am vegan protein powders. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's kind of like, do you remember original Game Day 2, where it had that grittiness from the glycerol monostearate? And even our Game Day Nootropic has that now too. That's kind of the same like mouthfeel I get from vegan protein. But then at a certain point, I was like, I'd drink somebody else's pre-workout. I'm like, is there anything in this?
Because
you don't have that like graininess in it, and feel all the ingredients.
If you stir it twice and don't have anything left at the bottom, you haven't got enough in there.
That's what
I kind of like it when you drink it and you're like, oh man, I've still got 50% left to mix.
You got to refill it with a little water and swish it around. That's when you know that it's actually loaded with stuff too.
It's the plant protein. I think people have come to terms with, like, that's kind of what it has. There are a few out there that I think do a really good job at like masking it or not even having it at all. But I don't think people are going to mind too much, because I've had some of those plant proteins that are not that great. Like they just don't do a great job at masking it all. And people will say, oh my God, this is the best. It tastes like whey. And I was like, there's no fucking way. No chance in hell. This, like, it's going to be impossible, I would say, to make them taste.
I don't think it will ever get that way unless they make some kind of like instantized, micronized.
There was that ice cream. I'm trying to remember the name now. I'm just going to look it up now because I think it was called Brave Robot. It's an animal-free whey protein. I don't know if I bought this up. This was bought up ages ago.
How does that even happen?
This is what I'm saying. So I bought this up because it's not even supplement industry. It's a plant-based ice cream that's made with animal-free whey protein. And if you go to their website, you'll see a little breakdown. It made a lot of news in general food markets.
Yeah.
And I shared it, and people talked to me, and I'm like, I don't understand that if you can come up with animal-free whey, like somehow you've come up with this, because their explanation on their website isn't exactly like detailed. They say it takes a guided by nature approach that uses plant sugars and some old-fashioned fermentation. So that was kind
I
of
can see where that, yeah.
So they've come up with it, but I'm like, why the fuck would you only put it in ice cream? There are so many applications for this, and you put it in ice cream, and like, I can't even imagine it being like I don't know. There are just so many applications you could use this protein specifically.
You'd think that would be one of the first ones.
I would have thought. You look it up. It's called Brave Robot. I haven't seen them come out with any expansion since, but I was like, I feel like if you asked a vegan, someone who lives the vegan lifestyle, like what food would you think animal-free whey would be useful? Ice cream is the last place you would be thinking.
Yeah, it seems like it's a much smaller category than what you want to go with.
Yeah, I saw it. I was like, this needs to go somewhere. That's why I shared it, because I was like hoping like some giant brand would be like, let's fucking make this something for ingredients.
Isn't it kind of crazy that whey went from a dairy byproduct that was just thrown away or fed to pigs, and now we're trying to duplicate that in a non-animal source? Like, how do we make something else to throw away that we could put into something else and make it really cool and popular?
Yeah, like it's that's the industry as a whole that we like to evolve, change. It was kind of like
something like that could actually become more popular than whey itself, especially if it's easier on your gut.
Yeah.
But something like that, you think, would be able to be made in scale.
The only issue I can see with it, or the reason that it probably isn't even thought about, is because of its price.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the price on those little tubs of ice cream is pretty high for what you get. And I'm like,
fermented plants, you think would be like insanely cheap to do?
I don't know, but a lot of it
soy.
They didn't say it. That was the weirdest thing, is that I was like, they like did all this research, they did all this stuff, and come up with this great innovation, but like they didn't like you know, something great happens, you put a patent on it, and then you say, this is how we did it. None of that.
We'll just cut this out of the podcast, because let's look into this then.
But that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, surely I'm not the only one sitting here going like, this is like the next best thing. Someone had to have come across it, investigated, and gone, this is just too fucking hard or expensive.
That could be the case. Yeah. Or who's going to have a facility that's going to ferment, you know?
I mean, Optimum, like Glambia, shit, they have probably 100 me trying to do that very thing. And
most
surely
likely
they come across it and they were like, no, too hard basket. No one will pay that much. But anyway,
there's no way they haven't explored that.
Yeah. So the to be honest, the one thing I actually have always appreciated about Man Sports, and the one thing I tell everybody, is that, and this is kind of, I guess, how you became known with the flavor thing, because you did it with the protein and other products, but it was really that isoamino, like, well, I don't know, like a decade ago, it feels like, with the original.
It's approaching that now.
Yeah, the original candy flavors.
The image.
Isoamino cell batch.
Yep.
Like that was the original.
The OG.
Because I think people forget, because it happened so long ago, that you guys were the ones who were like, let's make some candy flavors for aminos. And then since then, it's kind of like, you know, you do your fruit punch, your blue raspberry, and a candy flavor. And sometimes it's just a blue raspberry and candy flavor. But that wasn't really the case until you guys had done it.
Yeah, I think in blue raspberry was like the zaniest flavor back then too, which is so weird to think about. But yeah, I sat on that idea for years because I worked at a big online retailer, supplementwarehouse.com. It's changed ownership now. I think, you know, there's a different ownership group and kind of a different approach they have. But back then we cranked product, and I was so bored by all the companies that would, because I mean, I'd have 100 companies email me every single day or call me, send me samples. You know, I had a cabinet full of samples behind me, and I'd have to empty it out every week and refill it. And it was always like you got to try out this new product. It tastes insane. Our fruit punch is incredible. And I'm like, you know, there's not much innovation you can do with fruit punch. Like, if you have a good fruit punch, it's pretty easy to do.
Well, to be fair, people didn't even innovate on flavors. Like, until the candy craze came about, it was just, we've got a really good blue raspberry fruit punch. We kind of got orange mango started. That was a bit of a craze for a bit.
I think the only
raspberry lemonade,
like doing anything cool was Gaspari. Like, to me, Gaspari, I thought, was probably the best at flavoring with Super Pump, Saison, and I can't remember what the other product was. It might have been one of their aminos, but they had like raspberry lemonade and like, I don't know, just cool combinations. And
but it was still very much like fruit based shit.
It was very basic still. Yeah. And then I think like what was the name of that brand? Like ETS or something? I don't know. I feel like ancient for getting these brands from like 10 years ago.
I don't know any.
But they had a cotton candy, and that was like the most innovative I've seen. It was actually pretty good. But nobody actually did any candy flavors. And we had candy grape actually in the PF3 powder. Yeah,
but Jack had the grape bubble gum, so I guess that was kind of like somewhat of an extension. But I guess it's.
And we all went with basic though, you know, like a grape.
Yeah.
And that was easy to make. You could call it candy if it was sweet enough. But yeah, I sat on that idea for a while, and I realized that, you know, all these brands, like, if you're trying to win customers over, the only way to do it was some exotic stimulant for years, you know? And that was like the companies that would explode are the first ones that had this exotic stimulant. I was like, well, the user experience is so much more than just the feel of the product. And for me, the biggest thing that made me go to one product or the other was taste. So I was like, where can we innovate? There's got to be cooler stuff out here that we could do besides, you know, fruit punch, grape, orange. And that's when I thought of the sour batch idea after I drank somebody else's product that was like a raspberry flavor, and they just called it raspberry. And I was like, man, you're missing the mark. Like, this is like sour gummy bears, and we could do so much more with this. And then, you know, we did a bunch of different flavors like Dorks. What were the other ones we initially launched with? We had like 3 or 4, like right out of the gates. You know, we did Wind down the road, which was like candy banana.
Swedish Fish was that soon, or was that I thought Swedish Fish was a little bit later.
We kind of did. Yeah, we did that for a little bit. I can't remember what we even called that. Sweet Delish.
Oh, and you had the Skittles.
yeah. And we had, we had a little run into that.
That was the one that pushed the boundaries. I remember seeing that, and like, I'm like, you changed a couple of letters.
Dude, we're the first, and people still try to do that. I'm like, you guys, like, it's not
still there are brands doing it, but like they're not
still do it. Yeah, like all rainbow candy, and I'm like, guys, you're toying with stuff you don't want to get into. But
we've done that.
Conspiracy theories that we got sued and all this stuff happened. Like, no, they reached out and we stopped selling it.
Yeah, I noticed that. It
was pretty easy.
I've had a couple run-ins, not because obviously I make anything, but like companies that were like, look, this image is used this, and they're like pretty straightforward. They're like we're not gonna waste any money on like suing you. What the fuck we're gonna? So like they just reach out and say, hey, can you take this down? I'd be like, sweet.
Yeah.
But like some of the stuff that I've taken down because like that, people wouldn't know.
I think a lot of people do that like to talk about stuff like that had never actually been sued, so they don't understand.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. People
brands don't want to litigate, and big companies don't want to litigate because it costs everybody a lot of money. So you want to get done with it as quickly as possible.
And a lot of the time, people don't like. They'll like to push the boundaries, but if you tell them they stepped over the boundary, they'll be like, I don't think any company is ever going to say, you know what, fuck you, I'm going to keep it going.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's blatant what they did, and they would have like, it's not like they took inspiration from something else.
Yeah, very obvious. It's pretty obvious, but you know, and we've obviously taken a step back from that, and our leading flavors now are really just kind of really delicious fruit flavors. We're more in mass now. We have a partnership that's going to be launching in a couple weeks here that I'm super pumped about. I think I can reveal it soon. I might do it at the end of this podcast. We do really well in Vitamin Shop, and honestly, like watermelon and Blue Bomb which we were the first Blue Bomb or
Yeah,
Rocket
your Blue Bomb
or,
was probably because that came before. Was that not for a game day before
yeah, that
ISO?
was in like I think 2011, 2012.
Yeah, I remember that
So
one because
we
that
were
was when I
definitely the first
first.
one for that.
I didn't know what bomb pop was. I
Yeah,
remember when
sure. Yeah.
I was like because Steven was like, "Oh, did you check out the blue bombsicle?" I'm like, "Oh, it's just blue raspberry." And he was like, "No, didn't you see the popsicle?" I was like, "I just thought it was like a popsicle you shaped as a rocket because I hadn't been to America back then."
No,
And
yeah,
then he's
it's
just like, "Dude,
that's the
look
real
up
deal right there.
look up bomb pop," and I'm like, "Oh fuck, that's what it is."
Yeah, and I think the only difference between ours is we kind of focused in on the blue flavoring more, and a lot of people kind of incorporate that red, which is a little more like tart or like
But
has a bite to it, kind of.
it had the candy sugary sweetness to it. That was
Yeah, absolutely.
what stood out.
Yeah,
And that was
ours is
kind of
more
like
kind of almost like blueberry. Like a lot of people think it's blue raspberry, but it's more of a sweet blueberry flavor.
well, you
Which
guys
is
called
delicious.
it blue, didn't you? Blue bombsicle or
Blue
something.
bombsicle. Yeah,
So obviously, as soon as I saw it, I was like, "Ah, it's just a blue raspberry." Like,
yeah.
like if
And,
you
and
call it
the
a bombsicle,
so many people still call it blue bomb slice. Like they cannot read it. I'm like, guys, I don't know what a blue
no.
bomb slice is, but it's a sickle.
I get that because like people still say Stack3d. For a
Yeah,
while, it like bugged me, but now I'm just like one of my most popular searches below stacked is stacked 3D. Like
yeah. Oh, I mean,
ED
when you first came
space.
out, that's all I called you.
I don't
But you know, we
understand.
also like everybody referred to Jacked from USP Labs as Jack3d, and I'm like,
Yeah,
that's the weirdest name. No, it's Jacked.
because everyone said to me, "You know, it was Jack 3D," and I was like, "No, fuck, it wasn't." And they're like, "You asked them," so I did. I came across the original guys, and he said that
Yeah,
the first run was produced with an E, Jacked,
yeah. I
and
remember seeing.
then they had a trademark issue, and so then the next run was with a 3, and I'm like, man, those originals would have been a collector's edition, I think.
Yeah, I remember seeing it with that too, and then seeing the packaging change.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
it's
was
pretty
telling
wild.
me that it was originally meant to be, and it was intended to be pronounced Jacked.
And that
But I
makes
don't know.
me
I
feel
guess
like a dinosaur in the industry now too.
it wasn't that long. It was like 2009, 10, maybe. I don't know, 11.
Probably 2000. Man, I wanted to say 2008 maybe when the first Jacked came out.
Yeah, but then like it didn't gain notoriety for like
No, it took a little
a
while.
little bit
Yeah,
because obviously no one
and
really
it was just
knew.
lemon lime for like 2 years, I think.
Yeah, then had the blue
Right, the red
raspberry.
color,
Yeah, and then had
and then
the
they did
blue.
tropical with the blue.
See, people think the packaging is what matters, but I think Jack proved that you could just make it look like a medicine bottle.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Packaging does matter because everybody just thought that was a straight up pharmaceutical. But
And
I mean, that was genius branding.
the only thing that changed for the flavor was the little color stripe and the lettering.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, those looked like 5-cent labels too. Like those looked as cheap as
Oh,
possible. But I think that was kind of like the genius of it too.
it was good. Those are the
Yeah,
days. But
and
yeah,
like, creating micro, like what was it called, a micro concentrate or ultra concentrate?
yeah,
That was a genius move to be like, we're not going to put efficacious doses in this, but it's going to hit you hard as shit because there's 75 mgs of DMA in this.
I suppose if they came out and said this has got a new ingredient that's going to blow your mind, it would have been less believable than this is just a really good pre-workout concentrated.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
you can't concentrate 3 grams of bed out. You can't make it smaller.
No.
It is what it is. But
somehow that beta-alanine still hit. So I don't know how much they had in there, but it was good enough. Maybe that was after taking like 3 or 4 scoops of that too, that it actually hit you.
I wonder how long they planned that, because I feel like you didn't come up, even though that ingredient was the king, you didn't come up with that look, that specific blend like overnight. Surely you would have been like, okay, how about we toy with this?
Yeah.
Like, although again, they may have just been like, this ingredient's the shit. Put it with some other things. Let's pump it out.
I feel like there was a lot of ingredients like that, like ephedrine back in the day. People were like, yeah, throw it in a capsule and throw some kind of yellow bee on it and name it something yellow and you're good to go. That was all the ephedrine branding was for everything. Ephedrine alcohol.
I wasn't around back then. I heard that it was the shit, but I really
No,
wish
that's
I had the
incredible. Yeah. Or if
Yeah.
ephedrine HCl, like that was the shit. They had like a lot of like little gel caps and blister packs for that. I mean, it was so pharmaceutical.
It was but now I guess we've matured. The industry's come along, and you guys have obviously rebranded again. And I noticed that did you change the logo with the rebrand, or is that something more recent?
So we kind of phased that in. That was something we've actually been talking about that since like for probably 5 years now. Man was always just a tough sell, and it wasn't, it's not like recent things that happened really that spurred that. It was always just the friction point of women really wanting to take the brand because the flavors look compelling, or they heard from somebody about it, and they're like, well, I don't want to take it because it's not for women. They didn't realize that it was an acronym, metabolic augmenting nutrition. But when you're trying to sell your product online or in a store, not everybody's going to be able to tell your brand story about how that's an acronym. They're just going to look to the next product and see what they want to buy. So recently, getting into more retailers and going a little more mass, we thought it was the right move to switch to MS, which just stands for Man Sports. And it's something we wanted to do for the new logos too, or the new labels, was, modernize the logo too. And it was a logo that me and my creative director have hated for years in terms of design, because it just doesn't fit anywhere. So the MS is a lot more versatile now too.
Yeah, I noticed it pop up like with the protein.
Yeah.
It wasn't until after I'd written the story, I was like, oh, I'm not going to squeeze that in there. And I was like, that is a very distinctively different logo to, the M with the star.
It cleans it up quite a bit. But I mean,
and it's essentially all by itself on the label. So it's very obvious. I guess if you've been buying Man for a while, it's going to stand out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool. It's unique now. And it makes it easier for people to understand our brand without having to get around the point of that, Man Sports doesn't mean it's for men only.
I always knew it as Man Sports because, like, didn't you used to have the definition by the logo or something?
It was underneath it, yeah. And then like we ran into trademark issues because we called ourselves Man Sports, but it didn't say Man Sports. So then we switched to Man Sports, which is the trademark that we own. And now we're just like, screw it all. We're going to be MS, and we're going to roll with that because that makes the most sense. It's kind of a modern spin on the brand now, and it just shows kind of the evolution of the brand, I think.
Yeah, I always remember just as, the augmented nutrition. But then I have had people mention when I wear a Man shirt, they'll be like, oh, cool, Man Sports. Like, just reading it as Man. And I'm like, I can understand. And a lot of your crowd, I think, is probably balanced, not leaning one side more than the other, I would have thought. But
it's like, at one point, it was like 65% women was our purchasing customers. So, we knew we had to make the change. I think the female demographic for, supplement users overall has increased quite a bit too. So want to make sure that it was pretty obvious that it's not just a men's brand. And I think we achieved it with that without, going too far away from the brand itself and, just completely changing the name or something.
I think the yellow kind of dragged you away from that look.
Yeah.
Like back when you had the black and red, it kind of felt very, and then you bought the yellow in and I was like, damn. I remember people saying when you did rebrand, they were like, that's so weird. It's just, and then now you've gone completely white and it just seems fitting, like you said, like a smooth, consistent transition, I guess.
Yeah, people were really resistant when we changed over to yellow, but I think yellow, like nobody was doing it at the time. And for us, it felt like this crazy change, but it lightened the brand up a little. And then we candy flavors. And I think, this evolution of the brand now has exposed it to even more people because now the name is MS. It's cool, bright labels. It kind of captures the character, like the personality of the brand a little more. And then it speaks to our flavors a lot more with much larger flavor logos and visuals that go along with that. So I think we captured the essence of what we are more, really focusing on the flavor. And the yellow just did not go with anything.
I don't think that the ISO amino candy flavors would have done as well if you didn't switch to something like yellow or white.
In black, it would have been horrible. Yeah.
I feel like they would have gone unnoticed.
I think if we would have gone this route with these white labels in 2015, like we did with yellow, I think they would have done even better.
Yeah, it'd be tricky.
But
It might have been too much of a leap.
it could have
Might have
been.
been too much of a stretch, and they would have been like, no, hell no.
Yeah. But you know what sucks too is we do this and like every brand comes out with white packaging, but at
I
least
was
we're
gonna
on
say
brand.
the other thing I noticed was that I thought it was the funniest thing when Cellucor did the Sour Batch Bros.
Yeah, and then somebody else just recently used Sour Batch. I can't remember who did it, but I don't think that's actually on their labels, but they said Sour Batch, and
Because
I think I'm taking it as a compliment at this point. And you know, like we've gotten so much shade for doing the candy flavors, yet the companies that throw the most shade are the ones that most likely got the idea from us anyways. You
because
know?
I always connected because you had the was it not like that was one of your beta series, like a batch series or something? I remember.
Yeah, so like we had like one of the biggest components of our marketing back when we kind of first started was micro batch.
That's it. Yeah.
Everything was made in 1,000 units or less.
Yeah.
Which we actually still try to do for a lot of stuff, and it might be multiple runs, but they're batched in units under 1,000. We taste test everything before it's made still. So we're still trying to use that kind of quality, but then we just call it sour batch because it was our sour candy flavor.
That's what I thought. I thought it was like it just fit. I didn't necessarily connect it to
So when
Sour
other brands
Patch
then
until I
done
saw the
batch, it was a little confusing because like you know we didn't get that because it's like a sour batch of product. I know there's some like sour batch like craft beer or something like that, which makes sense because you call like, you know, a batch of alcohol a batch. But yeah, when other supplement companies would call it sour batch, I was like, okay, well, that's clearly just ripping us off. But
I thought it was funny because I was sort of like, I mean, again, because I just knew batch from the micro batch, and then when they did it, I was like, it's kind of cool, I guess. It's kind of nice. It's like a nod to the
like when like somebody like Cellucor does that, I'm not gonna get mad at it. Like it's pretty cool. You know, I started off in retail selling a bunch of Cellucor too. I feel like it's gone full circle if they're even noticing the brand. So I thought that was pretty dope.
You could have done it with so many other letters outside of B.
Yeah, that's true.
But they chose B. I thought it was cool. I thought it was nice, because I remember Steven commented. And
yeah.
It was funny. It was funny, but it's been a long time since that came out. And you guys have evolved very well. You also won Brand of the Year. I am the worst at remembering what year that was.
2017.
Congratulations to you.
It's been a minute. It's time to try to get back in there.
No, was it 17 or 16? No, was it you were awarded 17 for what you did in 2016?
Probably. Yeah.
Because I remember it backwards because it was inspired. It was Ghost last year, inspired before that. Redcon won twice before that. And then it would have been Man Sports.
Yeah. Because 2015, 2016 into 2017, like that's when we like blew up.
Yeah, because I remember the year prior, Steven said, he was like, we tried to go with kind of rest on the products that we were doing well with and not really push too many releases or expansions or flavors. And then he was like, you know what? Let's just try and do the opposite this year. And you guys fucking smoked it. And I remember that.
Yeah, we blew up then. Yeah, and like Steve never wanted to do an amino, and I just pushed super hard. I'm like, dude, we got to do an amino. And then we did it in candy flavors. So like, you know, we both agreed like, okay, an amino makes sense. Candy flavors make sense. Let's do it. And then that just blew up. And then from there, like we were known as the flavor company. Yeah. So we had to just keep expanding flavors.
I'm pretty sure I called you the candy company at some point, the candy supplement company, just because you were the only ones who kind of, and you just kept doing it.
Yeah. But, you know, like there's a lot of people doing authentic flavors now, which I think is cool. And I think it's starting to legitimize our industry. You know, we're looking into that. We're in contact with some people about some licensed flavors. I think it's cool that our industry has evolved to that point. And, you know, like what's really cool to me lately is in the last couple of years, everything used to be super competitive and you'd view your, you know, competing brands as your enemies almost. But now I feel like there's a lot more collaboration, a lot more brands that are friendly with each other, especially owners of brands and some of the people in the leadership positions. And like dudes like Greg Helton, who I think he's just got with Rise. They just did a collab with Sunny D. You know, I hit him up about that. It's pretty fucking cool that a company like Rise is doing something with Sunny D, like super iconic brand from our childhood. So I'm really happy to see other people innovating, doing cool stuff. And, you know, it might not be these massive brands too. No shade to them. I think they're doing great. I think they're coming up pretty good too. And I'm not saying we're the biggest brand in the world. So I think that it's badass that it shows that a lot of our companies can do stuff like that now, and it's becoming more accepted. And, you know, these other big companies and massive corporations are willing to take the time and work with brands in the supplement space.
I feel like it'd be beneficial to you. Like if you said, you know, I want to work with this brand, not only can you go to them and say, look, my brand's popular, we do this, this, and this. You can then say, look, Ghost did it with this brand. These guys did it with this brand. We could be your avenue. So I guess it helps that you have examples. But we actually had this conversation. Me and my wife talked about this yesterday because we were talking about the Sunny D one. Yeah. Because again, I'm not American, so I wasn't overly familiar with what. Don't hate on me. I knew that it was some sort of like juice drink. I just didn't know.
It's like a unique orange juice. It's hard to like.
I'd heard of it in like in a movie or like a TV show, I think.
Yeah.
And that was my only point of reference. But we were talking about this because some of these collabs just blow up, right? As soon as people see them, like, share, message, everything like that, they just blow up. And some of them blow up, but not to the same extent. And me and my wife were talking about it, trying to figure out, was it the brand itself? Was it the brand they're partnering with? And we actually came to the summary of what you mentioned in the last podcast that never existed. Was that you said one of the reasons you did the candy flavors was you wanted to give people on a diet or on contest prep something that felt like it could satisfy a craving. Yeah. And I actually thought that was one of the things that I can see consistent, because a lot of these collabs get a lot of attention, but the ones that get the most attention are those candies, those savory, those sweet things that people would probably lean to. Yeah. And I was kind of like,
cheat on your diet to otherwise. Yeah.
Like if you partnered with, I don't know, some weird little snack kids bar, you're probably not going to get that much attention. But you did a McDonald's authentic Big Mac gainer flavor, that would blow the fuck up.
Yeah. And I think there's a novelty aspect to some of them too, where it might not be a flavor that they try all the time, but you know that first run, even if it's a limited run, let's say, it's going to blow up.
I thought it would be interesting to see people take that angle that you were saying, like something that people will cheat on, like a Krispy Kreme or fucking Dunkin' Donuts. Because I would say that I wouldn't have thought that was possible, but that's very much doable now. Yeah, with the brands that they have partnered with, other companies. So
what I think the natural evolution of this is too is not only the supplement company promoting that it's a collab flavor, but actually getting some reciprocity and having that major brand shout out that it's also in a supplement.
Yeah, I think that's what
I've seen that yet. I think that's probably coming soon, especially if that brand has a large retail partner or there's some cross promotion in store. I think
that was one thing I didn't notice like about Ghost, with a lot of their big ones, because they were kind of pioneering the collab thing, is that you never saw it. I remember seeing it in like they like stories or they like, but I never saw it feature on their like main page. Yeah, like it was almost kind of like the woman they're having an affair with kind of thing. Like
exactly, like the side chick that they don't want to show. But you know, I think if anybody's going to do it first, it's most likely going to be Ghost. Because
but I just thought it was
partnerships.
I thought Welch's would have done it. I feel like maybe it's because they're not as large as the one they're partnering with. Maybe you need to kind of come to a middle ground. Yeah. But I don't know. But I know that they said that's one of the key things. Like brands that they partner with see value in it because it brings their name into the health space, and that may not necessarily be where their food was. And it kind of like McDonald's partnering with the Olympics. Like, surely that's not the go-to food for Olympians, but you put your name beside it, you get that association. So I was kind of like
that. And I think for a lot of these brands that are willing to entertain the idea of doing a licensed flavor for a supplement company, yeah, they're looking at it from the perspective of how do they reach critical mass within a brick and mortar store, let's say, or get in front of a new audience. But let's break it down like a Walmart or a Target or something like that. If they're already in the grocery section, or they might be in the coffee section, or they might be at the register as a point of purchase type, impulse buy. How do they also get in the nutrition area or sporting goods? And I think this is kind of a way to reach that critical mass where they're like in 5 out of 10 sections of the store.
Well, in the UK, you've got Mars does that's their protein bar. They got the Snickers protein bar, the M&Ms. They've done a pretty good job in their area of the world, but those things haven't kind of extended to the US.
I think you'll see that soon.
I would have thought so, but
time.
You have to remember these things have been around for 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
I would have thought it was going to happen.
Some of those brands are so slow moving, man.
Yeah. But so I mean, you mentioned sneakily that you're looking at doing one.
We're toying around with the idea. We have a lot of stuff going on though now because we have the rebrand, we have all these new products, we have a non-stim burner we're working on, we have Scorch Cardio Burn, which came and went. That was a limited time formula that sold out. Now we're looking at doing Cardio Burn caps because people love that sweat feel. And we had sweat compound back in the day, but it was almost too strong where like your mouth was sweating. So looking at doing Cardio Burn caps. We have a couple new offerings: collagen, greens, vegan protein for Nutritox. Gut Joy is booming with that. So there's all these different things that we're working on, and a couple of unique formulas of things like Game Day. We have BrainBridge Elevate, actually, which I have right here.
I've been waiting for the BrainBridge.
So this is coming next week.
Oh shit, that's next week.
Yeah, this is next week. An orange juice flavor, ramped up formula, super, super good. It's kind of double or triple as strong as normal BrainBridge. So it's definitely like for the stim junkie, high stim person. But I think this might be one of the first. It should have been the first if this would have launched a year and a half ago, like we wanted it to, with a glow in the dark label.
I remember you previewing that, didn't you?
Yeah. We previewed it at like Stack Pro like last year or the year before, even. Like it's stupid that it took this long. But we also had it beta tested by 100 people through our beta program, which is super cool. So they got to try it out and provide feedback. And that's been happening over the last like 4 months now, I think. So
I had BrainBridge as one of my top focus supplements for a while, and that was based on the
just the normal
version, the one I tried years ago. Yeah.
And I still think it holds its ground, and it was one of the first with like an eye health blend. And I know a couple brands have done that since, and like that was 100% a unique idea of ours. There's a lot of really cool aspects to that product.
To really do it in the sports nutrition space, like there were people who had done it, but you guys were like, no, this is how you kind of need to do it. And then after BrainBridge, you got all these other well-dosed products, or the other end of the spectrum, and they were for gaming and shit like that.
Yeah, there was a lot of people that came out with those, and they would kind of try to flex on BrainBridge, but we're like still like we did it 3 years ago, and our formula is still comparable, if not better than theirs, I think. And it's kind of weird because like the Blue Light 2020 Vision blend that we did was actually really cool because that was more us thinking of it from an entrepreneur or like business professional looking at a computer screen all day. And then it kind of played perfectly into gamers just staring at us all the time. So that's a really cool product that we're going to do. But I think one of the coolest things that we're working on is the bar. So
You're doing a bar.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. So we got to send you some samples, dude. They're insane. So we're working on a bar, hoping to launch with 3 flavors. We're locking down some really big retail partners right now. They're super excited about the flavors. We're just finalizing packaging and kind of the exact marketing that we want behind it. And like, a lot goes into that, especially if now we're entering into like functional foods. It's not a protein bar.
Interesting.
It's really not like a lot of bars out there. We're going with more of a spin that it's a snack bar.
So still somewhat high in protein? Or are we saying like no
Yeah.
protein? Like
So like
zero?
not abandoning protein, but it's like a healthy, balanced macro bar where it's not like crazy over sugary. It's not like a fat bomb keto bar or something.
Yeah.
It's not a high protein bar that's going to be like super chewy with a horrible texture. We're trying to find like a really good middle ground, and rather than calling it a meal replacement and having like a 400 calorie bar,
Yeah.
we want to be more in 200 to 300 calories, but still have it be healthy. Where I think like, protein bars they're a decent little snack if you want a high protein thing, but we want something that's going to give you a little more energy too, and more whole food based.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
It's not peanut butter based, is it?
There's peanut butter in it, but there's different
Oh,
nut
yeah.
butters too. So it's going to be very unique, I think. And, there's a lot of peanut butter based bars. And I think that's definitely where the trend is going. And this will have an element of that, but it's going to be different too.
Huh.
And then obviously flavor is going to be like a main driver.
Oh yeah. I tell you, the one thing I'm still waiting from Man Sports, and I don't know if you must know which one I'm going to say, because you guys teased this, and I'm not sure I'm pretty sure it wasn't a
carbonated drink.
I mean that too. I mean that wasn't what I was going to say, but that too.
Yeah.
Was the cheeseburger dirty bulk.
Dude, I always wanted to do a gainer and do the cheeseburger version.
Because that was one of the most blown up stories we had ever shared.
Yeah. So we actually had a dirty bulk formula, but maybe we will do this, because I know like internationally, like gainers still do well. Maybe we'll go back and do that, because dirty bulk was the best name ever too. But
it was.
We actually had I won't say the trademark name of it, but we had like the chocolate milkshake and fries flavor completely done, and it was insane. It was so good. It had a little bit of salt to it.
It was just genius. It was that, like, I don't know how many people would enjoy a cheeseburger or like a flavored gainer, but all you'd need to do is make it taste reasonable.
Yeah.
And then pair it with like a normal flavor, like a chocolate mud shake or a chocolate monster shake. But they were just, when I saw that, I was like, that, and it just blew up. People were like, this better be fucking real. People were like, this is insane.
You just reminded me of that. Like, I've forgotten of so many good ideas over the years.
That was just dynamite, because I was like, and it just looks so real. I was like, is this gonna? And I'm like, Man Sports has come out with something like less crazy than this, not as crazy as this, but I was like, this could work.
Some of the April Fool's stuff we did, we put more time into marketing that than like some like real projects that we did that were like kind of easy to do. But yeah, like some of those labels we did for April Fool's like took us like weeks to do.
I just thought that was because Blender Bottle did that when they did the Galaxy Cat. They did a preview to Galaxy Cat shaker for April Fool's, and then they actually made it a few months later. I was like, because you would have so many different areas to go, whether it be like, I don't know, you could just pick some kind of junk food, like a pizza or some shit like that. It just had so many.
Man. It was what actually made it work really well was the sweet and salty.
Yes, salty. I think would go well,
because I think we actually used, for the carb source, we used a potato source. So you already tasted like the fries from the potato source.
You should have done like real meat bits or something.
Oh my god, we could have done
real potato pieces.
The carnivore type protein source that they used. The meat.
That's what I'm saying. Like there were so many legs to that idea.
Yeah.
That I think it was like, even if you explored half of that, it would have just killed it.
We might have to revisit that.
I don't know how many repeat customers you'd get.
Probably not a ton, but we'd have to do that in like a 12-pound bag. Oh, that was my other thing. When we were talking about 5 and 10 pounders, typically now the only packaging that makes sense is a bag, and the amount of damages you get from a bag from people opening them with razor blades, opening the box in a retail environment, is out of this world. Because when we had clean protein in a bag, it was the most frustrating thing, because it was like a 15% damage rate.
Damn.
Yeah, it was nuts.
Well, I mean, I got Muscle Tech, and they have a 10-pound, or is it 12-pound?
Is that a tub or a bag?
That's a bag. It's a beast of a bag.
Yeah,
And I mean, even if I sliced a little bit, fuck that. I ain't returning it. It's
yeah,
like,
tape it up.
You would like the powder you'd lose. You'd still make up.
Tape. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd still make up for losses with the value.
Yeah.
But you know, tell Steven you need to get your ass on Dirty Bulk, because I just feel like it would be genius in this time.
Even if we made it a one-time run of that unique flavor in like a 10-pound bag, I think it would be dope.
Hit up McDonald's. Ask him if they'll do
it. Wendy's, because the Frosty.
Wendy's, you could do the Whopper for. There are several.
If you did it with Wendy's, they'd actually shout it out on their social media too, because they get a little weird with it on Twitter.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
On there. Yeah.
I feel like it's worth trying, because
it could be. Yeah.
That like I said, that idea was timeless, and I almost forgot about the Brain Bridge energy drink. I text you guys when it came out. I was like, "This is real," and you were like, "Yeah, we're thinking about it."
We actually had it fully developed, and we were ready to pull the trigger. And I don't remember why we didn't, but we had like 5 flavors of it ready to go with the manufacturer. And I think it had to do with their line time, and that they didn't do a ton of carbonated. They did alcoholic beverages typically in cans. And the way that you carbonate it, they had to get that line up and running. And it took so long that we're scrap the project. It took like a year for them to get that line up. And we're like, nah, at this point, we're too late to the game. And, you know, everybody's doing drinks now, but I think it'd be a little bit easier to execute now. But I know obviously big upfront cost and runs that you're doing with something like that. So we're kind of choosing to put our eggs in the bar basket for now. But there's definitely some other unique functional foods that we're working on. Those are probably a year out from now. The bar is something we're trying to move on a lot quicker. But we have a name, you know, in the process of being trademarked right now. So I can't reveal that yet, but pretty soon, hopefully we'll be able to reveal some of that info. And the coffee creamer is actually getting rebranded, and it now actually has a natural white colorant in it that's going to change your coffee to a lighter color, new formula, easier to use, and it's going to be in a more grocery appropriate packaging. And hopefully that gets it more into the grocery market rather than just supplements. Super pumped about that. So,
oh wow! Yeah. So you guys got a lot coming then.
Crazy amount of stuff, and I think I can probably reveal it on here because we're going to be on shelf pretty soon. But the big news for this year that we've been working very hard on for a long time now is.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's partnership with a retailer.
Yes.
Is it a supplement retailer?
No. We're in most of those already.
Is it a major retailer? Like
it's major.
Are we talking like Walmart? God damn. Wow.
Yeah, so it's Walmart test stores to start, but it's a whole new sports section. So it's not in the typical vitamin supplement area. It's going to be in their extreme sports section, which is
so they're like
a new take on sporting goods.
Oh, okay. So they're like kind of making space for supplements, because I know previously it was tucked away next to the pharmaceuticals and shit. And like
and I think they
had like 5 brands in there anyway.
Yeah, so there's a lot of new brands that they're bringing on.
Okay.
Not as many in our space, really. Kind of different niches. But this is a pretty big set. We have 15 SKUs going in there, and just a handful of stores to start. But then it scales from there. But we're really excited about the opportunity. Pumped that Walmart's even giving us this opportunity. It was a lot of work went into it, but we'll actually have a unique formula of game day going in there, game day sport, which is a little more
mainstream
on the affordable side for most people, where like nootropic is $60, like it's a pretty high price point for a pre-workout. So we're making some unique products for Walmart specifically, and doing a 20 serving ISO protein for them as well.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like, because I know a lot of the brands like Cellucor and all 6 Star, they kind of have not necessarily toned down, but I guess supplements built for that price point and that market. So I guess that makes sense.
And we really don't want to sacrifice, the effectiveness of products. It might just be a unique serving size or something a little bit different for them, for that consumer. But most of the stuff besides game day and protein will actually be the same serving, same formula, everything the same, at a pretty good price point too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like the prices aren't too low. It's not going to really disrupt much with other retailers either.
I mean, I think a lot of people, if they don't, it's worth understanding that that's a different kind of market. Like if you went into like a specialist store for anything, you're going to get premium stuff. And then when you go into mainstream, you expect to get something more to the people that don't care enough to go to a specialty store. So I guess you have to
actually, they're testing out different price points too, where in the sporting goods section, it's not going to be super, super affordable. It's almost our normal pricing. And that's why some of the products are going to be different servings or a formula for them. But yeah, it's not like when you walk into their supplement section, you can get, a pre-workout for $15. That's not going to be the case. But we're super pumped about it. It's a whole new section of the store that they're trying. And I think in probably about 2 to 3 weeks, we'll have it on shelf.
Oh, wow. Well,
yeah.
Congratulations. That's pretty big.
Thank you. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And then we have a couple other partnerships in the works. And then hopefully, the bars are something that we'd really like to be on more of that mass scale too.
That's a hard one to crack.
Yeah.
The only reason I say it's hard is because I've seen some bars that are like everywhere and do really well, but they taste like shit. And then like bars that don't do well taste amazing. I'm like, it's got to be one of those things where like,
I think we're going to bridge the gap here because we got a lot of interest.
It's a hard thing to do.
Big players, and ours tastes incredible. We're going to send you some.
You ever see the part is, and I've known you guys, and I love Man Sports, but everyone says this tastes amazing and this will be different. Not that I'm saying it was one.
Here's what I will say. Nobody that we've sent this to has said no yet.
Yeah, but this is my other problem though. Is like when people send stuff to like some people, like it's kind of like the Rock's energy drink. I was like, did anyone tell someone that this does not taste good? But then like if the Rock came to me and was like, what do you think of my drink? I would probably lie to him too. I wouldn't tell him it tastes like shit.
Yeah, but who's gonna lie to me and Steve? They don't care to make us happy. They're going to give us a real answer because for years we'd be like, hey, you want to bring the supplement in? They're like, yeah, no, I got too many of those. We send this bar. They're like, holy shit, when can we get it?
Steve can be intimidating. I'm sure
on
a bad day.
Phone, nobody knows what we look like, right?
Okay, well,
but,
I'm
bar,
interested.
I wouldn't be this excited about this bar because
I mean, you've tried
I was slightly against doing a bar in favor of doing a carbonated beverage or a protein RTD. But this bar is that good that I'm like, holy shit, we got to do this.
Well, okay, I'll take your word for it. I mean, I always take people's word for it. I'm always happy to try something.
Hey, and for me working in retail that long, I've tried a lot of bars.
My issue is I've tried international bars, and there is a big difference between international and the US. I've noticed, and I think
we got to send you one.
I'm down to try. If you're this excited, then send it away.
Text Steve after this. He's gonna tell you how good that bar is.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
we literally had like athletes come in and they're just like, hey, do you got anything to eat? And we're like, yeah, here's a protein bar. And they're like, what the fuck is this? Holy
I find
shit.
When brands come down to that 10, 12 protein gram mark, like if that's where you are, it makes sense. Because
I think we're a little higher than that, but our biggest is texture.
Yeah, taste. Because most people say, okay, here's 20 grams of protein. Let's get it as good as we can around that mark.
Yeah.
Now brands are slowly realizing they're like, okay, this is what it tastes like at 20 grams. Let's see what we can do when we take this out. And then they get down to a point where they're like, okay, now it tastes good. Now we can compare it to a candy bar.
I have the same approach to this as we had for like Isomino. Like, how do we make it unique? How do we improve the user experience based on what's in the marketplace right now? And it So it came down to like a blend of ingredients that make sense, ingredients that you can actually pronounce, keeping it as natural as possible, making it a snack, but something that's also viewed as healthy. We didn't want to just be, protein with candy all over it, or coated in chocolate and crazy sugar values. But I think we've like got the best of all these different worlds in one bar that like, when I eat it, I definitely don't think I'm eating a protein bar.
Ooh, well, I'm interested to try it, of course. So send it to me whenever you can.
We'll get you hooked up.
I will text Steven. He might be pretty late for him now.
He'll be up, man. He's a night owl.
Yeah, but is he an active night owl? Like sometimes I text him at like 7 or 8 at night, and then he doesn't text me back until like midday the next day.
Yeah. It's on.
Or it's because it's a dumb question and he doesn't want to fucking answer it.
Like, oh God, this guy.
Well, thanks for coming on. It was great talking to you again. I'll make sure this gets online today or tomorrow, but that was a good one. And you guys have plenty of coming soon. So I'll definitely keep me in the loop. We'll make sure we share everything. And thanks for coming on.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me.